Greetings. Welcome to the webinar Family Friendly, Establishing a Climate of Professionalism. Professionalism has a direct correlation to a welcoming school environment as well as a successful school. In the context of this presentation, professionalism is defined. It is the competence, behavior, and or skill expected of a professional. I want that term professionalism to resonate with you throughout this presentation. Particularly, I want you to know that in order for professional behavior to be displayed, expectations must be clearly communicated. So in this slide, we're going to kind of talk about this mission statement: to create a learning and working environment in which the highest level of professional standards are displayed by employees and volunteers of Pinellas County School District. These standards include, but are not limited to, compliance with policy, rules, and procedures of the school board, federal, state, and local laws, and other community values and standards. For certificated educators, there's also what we call the Code of Ethics, which is also a guideline for professional behavior. And it is very important that you familiarize yourself with the Code of Ethics, primarily because unethical behavior can impact your employment as well as your certificate. In our district, we utilize the Code of Ethics for both certificated educators and all employees. During this presentation, we're going to talk about 4 key dimensions of a family-friendly school/district. One dimension is a welcoming environment. 2, a professional learning environment with high expectations. 3, a safe environment. And 4, fair and equitable practices. So when you take a look and say, why family friendly? Or why are we discussing this whole professional component in our district? One is because it increases graduation rates and post-secondary education. Secondly, it promotes positive school climate, increases student and parent engagement, it increases student attendance and test scores, it decreases the release of public funding to charter and private schools, and we will elaborate on this bullet later on in this presentation. It increases student enrollment. It makes community members want to invest in the school. It improves customer service and parent-school communication. And it makes the school a place of trust, safety, and resources to students, parents, and the community at large. I want to take a moment before I start discussing the data regarding this entire presentation. But I want to take a moment to discuss recent trends that are important to this work. One is that public school districts no longer have the luxury of not marketing their programs and schools. Secondly, each year, schools districts across the country are losing millions of dollars to charter and private schools. For an example, $40 million of public funding was given to charter schools in California. That is huge. In our own district, approximately $5.9 million of our public funding was given to charter and private schools. So when we look at the bullet points, a majority of families and community members believe that a friendly front office staff contributes to what signals a welcoming school environment. I want to take a moment to talk about the front office staff. The data management technicians, the secretaries, and clerks are key employees who interact with outside stakeholders on a daily basis. It is very important that the professional behavior is displayed at all times. We don't often think about how integral your behavior, professionalism, your knowledge impact families and community members. Secondly, families tend to choose their neighborhood if they view it as academically successful, efficient, and safe. Earlier, I mentioned about the high expectations. Parents are looking for schools that exhibit high academic programs, high expectation, that they believe their students are safe, and there's efficient and effective operations within their school environment. Okay, regarding communication between families, community organizations, and their schools, there is a high preference to hear back from the school within a 48-hour window. Oftentimes in my role, I will go out to advocate for parents, and that is the number one concern, that they never hear back from A, the teacher, B, the principal, or the school regarding their concerns. So it is very important that we make sure that we respond to our emails in a timely manner. Of the families that ultimately send their children to other schools, most of them visited their neighborhood school before deciding to send their children elsewhere. That is a huge statement to consider, that when we're in an era where public funding is being removed and given to charter, we want to make sure that when our visitors, our families, our community members come in to view our programming, that we give them the highest attention. We show our programming that is excellent in our school environment, and that we make sure when they leave that our school is the place for them to attend. Last bullet, of those parents that wanted more information: teacher quality, academic performance, quality of communication from school, and special academic programs were the most requested information. Now we're going to briefly talk about the highest level of complaints that we know about. In my previous life, I was an administrator in the Office of Professional Standards, and during that time period, these were the top complaints coming from our district. Employee having problems with supervisor. Now, let me say this. As a supervisor, I have always believed that we can discuss and handle any disagreement, but we will handle it respectfully and in a professional manner. Secondly, over the last decade, I have observed an increased use of profanity among staff. Bullet 2 talks about using profanity language towards supervisors, co-workers, students, or parents. Regardless of the situation, a formal registry should be used that does not include profanity. Under no circumstance should a supervisor use profanity toward a subordinate or others. Now, taking in consideration that we do have parents that come into our environment that are upset about a situation, giving them that opportunity to just share their concern, Although they might use profane language, the response to our stakeholders, our community, and our families should always be professional. The school climate should be established that parents, students, and families understand profanity is not a part of the professional registry. This standard is built through relationship, communication, explicit and fair practices. When we talk about work ethics is an ongoing issue. Staff attendance, tardiness, job performance, lack of hard work is steadily declining. This should be clearly communicated during your interview process. It needs to be modeled from top leadership down and communicated continuously. You want to be able to set the standard of a professional work environment in which each and every person complete their task in a timely manner, respectable to each other, and work extremely hard to get the job done. Okay, so I will admit, one of my biggest pet peeves is dressing inappropriately. As educators, we often complain about the lack of respect for the profession. We must keep in mind that we are the best promoters of ourselves. I'm going to use Dr. Grego for example. Each day, Dr. Grego comes to work in a suit. You would be disappointed if he had a meeting with the governor and he showed up in a polo shirt, shorts, and beach shoes. It's no different with staff. If we expect students to come dressed appropriately, it is applicable to staff. Also, be careful of falsification of any documents. We want to make sure we're operating in honesty and integrity. We also want to make sure that our behavior is not discriminatory, that we treat all individuals with the utmost respect. So I like professional declarations. I will maintain honesty in all professional dealings. I will not engage in harassment or discriminatory conduct. I will refrain from malicious or intentional false statements about my colleagues or volunteers. I will make reasonable effort to protect students from conditions that are harmful. I will conduct myself in a professional business manner at all times, which includes work ethics, effective communication, professional protocols. And let me stop with professional protocols. It is very important that each person in your building understand the protocol when addressing concerns and issues. If there is a problem, it is always discussed first with your supervisor, primarily your principal. It is not correct protocol to email directly to your area superintendent or the superintendent without discussing the issue with building administration. Relationship with others, again, professional attire and professional language. So I wanted you to take about 30 seconds and think about declarations that are articulated at your school or workplace. How are they communicated to your parents, families, and stakeholders? Take a moment and jot down some declarations. Okay, professional messaging. What we communicate and what we message is very, very important. Our district is in the process of relooking at how we market our district, how we message information that leaves our district, and it's very, very important. So inside your school building, your professional messaging should be respect, cooperation, collaboration, tolerance, self-control, and self-discipline. How you communicate all of these pieces are very important to the workers in your building. Examples of school declarations. All students will be loved, nurtured, and prepared for college, career, and life. All parents/families, regardless of race, religion, or creed, will be welcomed and accepted. We will establish an environment that is safe, secure, and bully-free. Our processes and practice will be explicit for all students, parents, and stakeholders. Fairness and equity will be embedded in our way of work. Once you've established the declarations of your school, they need to be communicated, they need to be posted. Each person needs to be able to communicate these declarations, and there should be a continuous messaging throughout the year reminding employees of your school declarations. So how do all of these components correlate to safety? It is very important that you have a sign-in process, and that the sign-in process is communicated to all your staff, front office staff, your stakeholders, your families, and parents. There should be a system of internal communication. It is embarrassing to discuss an issue with a person in your building and they have never heard of the information of discussion. You should always, from your school-based leadership team, have a system that all individuals understand processes and procedures, are abreast of information that's coming from the district level. It is important for that internal communication. Awareness of school visitors. Every person in your school building should sign in. There should be an awareness of everyone on your site. It is important that your volunteers, your mentors, coaches, and speakers are registered volunteers, background screened, and cleared. And remember, if they are going to be unsupervised, they need to be level 2 screened. When you look at your school design, everyone should be familiar with your school campus. They should know all locked exterior gates, doors. They should know the entrance into your school and the exit into your school, emergency crisis plan. All of that is included in your school design and plan. You should have monthly meetings for process checks. Everyone should be aware of the camera systems. And again, ongoing communication is paramount. So when we look at fair and equitable school climate, families are seen as partners in improving educational outcomes. Restorative practices are embedded in our school's way of work. All family activities are connected to learning. There is a clear, open process for resolving problems. we have a fair process. And when I say fair process, I mean that although decisions are tough, our stakeholders can digest your decision knowing that you executed a fair process. Families are actively involved in decisions on school improvement and ongoing communication. This last slide addresses a collaborative solution to all professional procedures in your school, working with stakeholders, working with coworkers. It is always important to take time to gather input, whether it's from our parents, students, and school. Take an opportunity to document strategies and interventions that could be used. Establish timelines in which you want to make sure what you're putting in place happens, that is communicated back to the partners involved, and that you complete the task that you have developed. Maintain communication and report progress, and ensure that benefits are mutual and are clearly identified. So professional behavior and high moral standards are keys to success. As we conclude, the Office of Strategic Partnership offers a PMN course entitled Family Friendly that will go in depth in making sure your environment is a professional environment. This is a face-to-face training, and we encourage you to send staff to attend. We have scheduled September the 12th and October the 30th, 2019 in the Discovery Room from 8:30 to 11:30. I want to thank you for participating in this webinar, and I hope it was helpful for your school environment. Thank you.